Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy Uncle Ben, and this is the newest addition to my flock of lovely vintage Ibanez RGs. This is a 1991 RG 750 that was sold to me by my man Barry. It's in great shape with that ruby red finish. It's got the bound neck, the shark tooth inlays, low pro edge tremolo, the works, and it plays like the wind. I love this thing. I've already gigged it a couple of times, but there's just one problem with it. Yeah, as you might have heard right there, whenever I do a bend on the high E around fret number 21, it kind of chokes out, right? That's an indicator that this guitar has a high fret somewhere further up the neck. The rest of it plays fine, but it's just got that one problem spot that's keeping it from being perfect. And you guys know I like things that are nice, so it needs to be perfect. On today's video, I'm going to show you guys the easy way to fix a high fret on a guitar. Well, howdy there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. And you guys know I love myself some vintage Ibanezes like this guy right here, especially the ones from that golden era between the late 80s and the early 2000s. I love that era of Ibanez guitars, and I've always wanted a 750. I always thought this was the most nicely decked out one with the binding, the cool inlays, that super dark rosewood fretboard. It's really hard to find them like that anymore. The tremolo, the pickups, it's got the works on it. So whenever my man Barry offered this up to me for sale, I knew I had to have it. And Barry, huge thanks for hooking me up here, dude. You did me a really solid deal on this guy. It's in amazing shape. I already love it. I've always wanted one of these guitars since I saw Paul Gilbert playing one back in the day with like the little holographic stickers all over it. His was, I think, 5 alarm red, which is almost like the Ibanez Road Flare red. But I always loved how they looked with the black pickguard and the red finish here. So this is a guitar I've always wanted. So whenever Barry shipped it out to me, I got my mitts on it, started playing it, fell in love with it immediately. And I set it up to my liking, which is to say, dangerously low action. And whenever you set up your guitars with really low action and light strings, like I like to have them, any imperfections in the fretwork can be revealed very quickly. And as I said in the intro, I've got one high fret on this guy that's keeping it from being perfect. The rest of the neck is great, but it's really common to get a high fret somewhere here on the body frets of the guitar whenever you have a bolt-on neck instrument like this one. It's really common for them to develop what we call a ski ramp, just kind of a little hump right here. You can sometimes see it if you sight down the neck like that. Sometimes these frets just bulge up a little bit from where the screws are sticking through the neck, and it's really, really common. And yeah, I could just raise the action a little bit and get over that high fret and it would be fine, but I don't know. I like him to play the way that I like to play. And now that I have the right tools for the job, I'm no longer scared of doing fret work. And I want to take you guys along on the journey here because I know that fret work is one of those things that freaks a lot of us out. And with good reason, because if you butcher it, you've just made an amazing guitar unplayable. But thankfully, the wonderful folks over at StewMac have developed a few tools that are honestly pretty foolproof that make the entire process pretty painless. This is not a sponsored video. I paid for all these tools myself out of my own pockets, and I just think that they're amazing. And I know this can solve a lot of headaches for a lot of you players out there. So join me on a journey of fret fixation today as we gussy up this RG750 and get it playing perfect. As always, today's video is brought to you guys by everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. It might be a great internet guitar page, it might be a cult. It's up for you to decide for as little as $1 a month. Sign up today, you're gonna get access to an extended ad-free cut of this video, as well as hundreds of other exclusive posts. So don't delay, sign up today over at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Yeah, first things first, here's a list of everything that I'm going to be using today. You're gonna need a guitar with a high fret on it. Now notice that I said a high fret, not a whole bunch of high frets. If your guitar has dead spots and dead notes all up and down the fretboard of the guitar, I don't recommend doing this method. This is not a substitute for a full, fret level and fret dress from a really great luthier. It's not a replacement for a plec job. What we're doing today is what you need when you have a guitar that plays awesome, but just has like 1 or 2 spots with some buzzing notes or maybe some choking out on bends like mine does today. Again, I just want to reiterate, if your guitar has problems all over the neck, this is not the way to fix it. Take it to a trusted luthier, get a full fret level, or learn how to do it yourself and save some money in the long run. If you want to fix a high fret, you got to be able to find a high fret, which is why I'm using the StewMac Fret Rocker. This is going to help me find the high and low spots on the frets and address them accordingly. And again, since this is not a sponsored video, I'll just tell you whatever I want to. If you want it in a lovely orange finish, also made here in the USA, hit up Skyscraper Guitars. My man Greg runs that company, has all kinds of great tools for you home luthiers. And this is going to be the most important part of the operation. This is the StewMac Fret Kisser, which they introduced a few years ago. It looks just like the fret rocker I was showing you a second ago, only it has a few little grooves on each side of it, and it has a surface here that's like a diamond sanding coating. We're going to use that to level out the high spots in the frets. After we get all the frets to the exact same height, we're going to need to reshape the fret. That way it'll play and intonate correctly, which is why I'm using the StewMac Z-File. This is kind of a foolproof tool. I am by no means a great fret worker, but this thing is kind of like a safety file that'll keep you from messing anything up with your fret crowning. After we reshape the fret, we got to restore some luster to it, make it look all slick and shiny, which is why I'm going to be using the StewMac Fret Erasers. And I've also got some micro mesh pads that I'm going to use here too to get it up to a really high sheen. Other stuff you might need, a soft working surface and some painter's tape. We're going to use some painter's tape in here too. Yeah, let's get into it. As usual, I'm going to be doing my work today on the Tech Anywhere mat, which is my favorite tool for guitar techery at home or on the go. Be sure to use that promo code down there and get yourself a discount on one today. First thing we're going to do is to use the StewMac Fret Rocker here to find the high fret. It's got different sides on it to suit different areas of the neck as the frets get further and further away from each other. Because this is so high up, we're going to be using the shortest side, which can still rock across 3 frets. So I suspect that fret number 22 is the high one, and let me explain why. Whenever I play on fret number 21, the note's fine, it's good and clear. As I bend that note up towards the middle of the neck, it starts to choke out, as you can hear. And that lets me know that it's hitting one of these higher frets. Now, whenever I go up higher on the neck, it's back to being clean again, so I'm past the high fret. So that's telling me that the high fret must be right in front of where I'm playing, meaning fret number 22. To check, we're going to use the StewMac Fret Rocker. Let me give you a close-up here using my Apple iTelephone. So as you can see, the fret rocker here has different length sides on it. That way we can use it in various parts of the neck, because you're going to be checking this 3 fret distances at a time. And what I'm going to do here is to put the fret rocker on what I think is the offending fret as the middle. Do you see how I have fret number 22 in the middle of the 3 fret span right now? It's because I think that's the high one. Now, as I set this down on here, I can't really rock it back and forth, which is what I suspected considering the note is still clean whenever I just fret it there. But as I go up here, I bet you it's going to start rocking. Little wiggle right there. More wiggle there. Can you see that and hear that? So the middle fret here, the 22, is acting like kind of the center of a seesaw that this thing can rock back and forth on. Let's check upwards in the fret again here. Again, you got to check in multiple spots because it might be fine in one spot and high in another. Yeah, we can definitely see some rocking right there. You can really feel this in the tool and you can hear it clicking too. So that lets you know that that middle fret is kind of high. So we're going to grind that down using the fret kisser. Now you'll notice here that with every side of the fret kisser, you have 2 slick surfaces here on the outside edges, and the center is that diamond sanding surface right there, right? What we're going to do is put the smooth parts on the good frets and the sanding part on the bad fret. And the smooth parts are just going to glide up and down the good frets, using those as kind of a guide as we sand down the center fret. Those little notches are there to help you keep from accidentally scooting off and sanding one of the good frets. You don't want to do that. So it's just kind of a little safety catch. Now the cool thing about this is whenever we grind this offending fret down, eventually this thing is just going to ride smooth because it's never going to go lower than the outer 2 frets. Those outer frets are acting like a guide for how low the middle fret here needs to be. It's really great. It keeps you from sanding that middle fret too low, which would create a whole list of new problems. I'm going to do the work with the strings still on the guitar. You don't have to do it this way, but these strings are going to need to change anyway. And it's going to help me be able to quickly check and see if that fret is getting down where it needs to be. I'll know I've got it right whenever I can do that bend and it doesn't choke out anymore. One more thing about this is kind of a special circumstance because I am sanding on one of the body frets of the guitar. That means the back of the neck is already supported. Now, if I was doing this same process, but like somewhere here on the middle of the neck, I would need some kind of neutral support behind the neck. Because as I'm doing this grinding here and putting a little bit of weight behind it, that's going to make the neck flex, and that's going to change the relationship between those frets and all that jazz. So you need some support here behind the neck if you're working somewhere lower down. But thankfully, since I'm doing this up high, I'm not going to have to do that today. Now let's get grinding. Okay, I'll try to do a little bit of this one-handed here so you can see the process. Now, as you can see, I've got the gritty side here on the offending fret. The smooth parts of the file are on the good frets. And if I just start moving this back and forth, I can feel and hear a little bit of resistance where the sanding part is meeting the high fret. Now, probably if I did that up here where the high point was, it's exaggerated for sure. I can see, feel, and hear it a lot more because I'm really grinding up against the fret now. Basically, it just takes a little bit of this side-to-side motion right here, grinding down that middle fret until the fret kisser just starts gliding on the smooth sides of the file. That's when we know this thing is going to be perfectly level. So you just basically go side by side like this, doesn't take any massive amount of pressure or anything, until the file feels smooth. Oh yeah, it's really hitting right there. Around the middle of the B and G strings, I can really feel the abrasive part hitting the fret wire a lot more there. Over here on the high E side that didn't have a high spot on it, it's not touching at all. So I'm just gonna be gliding up and down here until I feel no more resistance, and that'll let me know I've got it where I need it. Yeah, here in the middle of the fret, I can also feel quite a lot of resistance there too. So that tells me at that point it's quite high. Yeah, definitely taking off some material a little bit higher up here too. This is the kind of thing that would have scared me to death years ago, you know, working on a new beloved instrument such as this one. Because back in the day, I didn't have anybody I could trust to do fret work on guitars. Like whenever I started playing guitar, I lived around like Morristown, Tennessee, which is a little tiny nothing town. There's nothing there. At that time we had like one or two guitar shops, no great luthiers in town. So if you had bad fret work on a guitar, you just kind of had to either try fixing it yourself or deal with it. And most of the time I just dealt with it. I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the know-how without the internet and stuff back then. And this little doodad here definitely didn't exist. So I would just toughen up and raise my action and deal with it. So I don't know if you guys can hear that on camera yet, but already here around the G and B, the abrasive part is hitting the fret less. Still a little bit, but it's already less than it was when I started, which means I'm taking some material off. I can see a little bit of dust here on the board as well. Now this guitar has nickel frets on it, but I want you to know that this process will work the exact same way with stainless. The stainless will probably chew up the tool faster and wear down that diamond sanding surface faster, but you know what StewMac has? Lifetime warranties on their tools. So you just use it till you wear it out, tell StewMac about it, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they just send you a new one. So no worries there. Now because I'm doing this with the strings on the guitar, I'm kind of having to short stroke it a little bit. Your stepmom's favorite. If I had all the strings off of the guitar, I could do this faster, but I'm just kind of having to work in little sections right now. But the cool thing is, I can't overdo it because at most it'll just start, you know, gliding up and down on the adjacent frets. So there's no worry about hitting one spot too much or wearing any spot down further than it needs to be. Here on the low side, the sanding surface isn't really hitting at all. So I think that it is in good shape here on the bass side of the fret as well. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier, whenever you have a fret that's definitely checking out as high, it's also a good idea to make sure that fret hasn't come unseated. You know, over time, humidity, temperature changes, sometimes a piece of wood on a fretboard can start to pucker a fret out, and that's why it'll be high. It's because it's being spit out of the fretboard. If that's the case, then you gotta use a fret hammer. I have one around here somewhere, and tap that thing back into place before you can continue this operation. So it's always good to check that. Try to slide like a piece of paper or something under the side of the fret wire, and if you can get it under there, it means the fret's probably getting spit out of the board a little bit. So that is worth checking as well. So I've been working on that fret for a couple of minutes. Let's check and hear what kind of a difference I'm making with that note fretting out. It's getting better, right? Now it's just starting to zing a little bit, which means I still have a little bit more to go, and that makes sense because I can still feel the abrasive part of the fret kisser hitting that fret. So we'll just keep going here, keep checking with that bend until it is nice and clean. Oh yeah, that middle is really where the trouble is. I'm sure you guys can hear that. I can really feel the abrasive part hitting there between the D and G strings especially. Which makes sense, because also whenever I bend, that's where the string is getting up to. So that's probably the high point that I'm hitting. I think after I get this guy where I want it, this guitar is going to be a beast. Like I said, I already gigged it twice with Skank Banger, my 80s band, and it ripped. These Ibanez's just feel like home, man. And it stayed in tune like a beast too, dude. There's no beating the good old Edge or Low Pro Edge. That Goto 1996, I love that bridge too. But there's just something about the good old Edge bridges. This guitar has the stock Ibanez pickups in it. It's got the Ibanez USA F2 bridge, C3 middle, and F4 neck. Yeah, well, I think they sound good. I know that like everybody's first guess with Ibanez stuff is like, well, change the pickups, put some DiMarzios or Duncans in there. I don't know, I might leave these. Part of me's, I don't know, just into the idea that it's all original, you know? 1991 pickups and everything in here, that's just kind of cool to me. But I don't know, I say that, but then in a month there'll be another video where I'm like, putting new pickups in my 750, so who knows. I will change those knobs out. Those knobs look a little bit dingy. The volume and tone is kind of yellowed on it, which isn't a big deal. I mean, the binding on the neck on this thing is very yellow, where it's just been played and loved for 3+ decades. That's cool by me. But I think especially where you got the bright inlays and even the white on the pickups is still pretty bright. I'd like for the volume and tone to kind of match that, so probably replace those. Now I'm getting less resistance already after sanding on that for a few minutes here. And I'm not applying a ton of pressure here. I'm letting the file do the work for me. And it is doing the work indeed. Let's give this a little fret check. Way cleaner. It's important to do this in the vertical position too here to make sure. Yeah, because even just having your guitar laying back like that, the force of gravity will change the neck and how the strings lay and all that. That's pretty dang clean, guys. I can go above it, it's fine. Yeah, way cleaner. Let's go just a little bit more, because I still feel like it could get a little bit cleaner on that bend, but I'm kind of running out of high surfaces to hit here. The fret kisser is doing a great job. Yeah, there's a little bit of a high spot right there. Just a little burr right there on the fret. And after that, I think I've pretty much got it. Yeah, dude, check this out now. Nice and clean. That'll sound great through an amp. Especially after we recrown the fret, it's gonna get even cleaner. Let me give you another visual here. We can see that I have knocked some material off of that fret. The adjacent frets here are still nice and clean and smooth because those have been, you know, gliding along the non-abrasive side. Where is it? Of the fret kisser right here. And, you know, again, as I go up and down here, sorry for the change of camera there. See, I'm rocking it now. and it's just gliding across. It's not taking off any material anymore. We're just gliding on the adjacent frets to make sure that the middle one is where it needs to be. And guess what? It is! Amazing. What a cool little device from StewMac. All done. Feeling no resistance anymore. It's just gliding up and down the adjacent frets, which means we're good to go. So as you can probably tell, now the top of that fret is quite flat in comparison to its very rounded brethren that surround it. This is where the fret crowning file is going to come into play. This is going to help restore a nice round fret top right there. That way it'll feel smooth and intonate well. That'll be the next step. But first, a cold beer. So to use the StewMac Z file, I need to get the strings off of the neck of the guitar. So I'm going to kind of shortcut that here and use the back cover plate. I'm just going to wrap that in a soft cloth like you see right here. Slightly pitch the tremolo forward, slide that guy back there, and now that means that whenever I loosen the strings here at the headstock, the tremolo is not going to sink back from losing tension. I'm going to loosen those neck bolts here using my hex hider, which hangs out there on the back of the headstock of the guitar, magnetically attaches to the tuners. This thing rules. Check out Hex Hider. Great people over there. Let's just loosen these guys up, reattach the hex hider right there on the back of the headstock, and let's loosen those strings up. So now that I've got the strings loosened, I'm just going to use a little bit of painter's tape right here and tape them to the side of the neck. That keeps them off of the fretboard where I need to be working. I'm also going to apply a little bit of painter's tape on either side of fret number 22 just to make sure I don't scratch into the fretboard using that crowning file. Okay, so now we're ready to start recrowning using the Z file. Now this file right here has two sides on it. One is ground down so that it makes a left side of the fret, and the other one makes a right side of the fret. So it's kind of like a semi-hemispherical sort of grinding tool like this. And kind of similar to how the fret kisser works, the cool thing is you'll never really grind this thing too low, because eventually it'll just start gliding across this non-abrasive edge whenever it's low enough. So this is also kind of foolproof. So as you do this, you're going to want to track your progress and see where you're taking material off the fret. And a great way to do that is to mark it up using a big old Sharpie, like this guy right here. I'm just going to put a line of Sharpie. Sorry, I'm shaky here. I'm doing this solo. I'm just putting a line of Sharpie up and down the fret like this. Another reason why it's important to use your painter's tape here. You can see I've blacked out the top of the fret there with Sharpie. I'm going to let that dry, and then that's going to help me track how clean of a line I'm making using the Z file. So now with the file, I'm just going to center that on the fret and make a few confident strokes up and down the fret. I believe I have it on the left side right now, so we should see some material being taken off of the Sharpie that I put down here from that side of the fret. I think. Let's find out. And again, you don't need to do a lot of pressure on this thing. The fret file will do the work for you. You don't need to muscle it. So it's a little hard to see in this light, sorry about that, but it's taken material off of one side of the fret and left the other side untouched. This is helping us get a good solid line right down the middle of the fret where we want it. So after a few passes, flip the file around and start working the other side of the fret. Again, as I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep it really straight. I'm not trying to let the file wander off to either side like that. Just want to keep it really parallel with the fret wire. And as you can see, I got myself a good shiny line right down the middle of the fret right there, which means we've created a pretty dang good crown for this guy. Now that I'm pretty sure I have a good crown going, what I'm going to do is to take off the tape and then check my work using the fret rocker again. We shouldn't have any of that seesaw rocking motion like we did when we started. All right, you can definitely tell which one of these is newly surfaced, right? Now we're just going to use the fret rocker and check our work here. No movement there. We're good there. Solid there. No rocking. That means that these three frets are now perfectly level. Isn't that sick? So now it's time to buff that fret out and get it up to a high sheen again. I'm going to use these little StewMac fret erasers. They really just feel like, erasers that you use in school. And what I'm going to do is to tape off the edges of that fret again just to make sure I don't, chew up the fretboard or anything. Because they start off at like 200 grit and go all the way up to like 8,000 if I'm not mistaken. So it'll get this fret really good and shiny. And all that you have to do is start with the lowest grit and just, buff it. And that's basically it. It's pretty easy to do. So I'm up to the 1200 right now. You can see it's starting to get pretty good and shiny. And lastly, the 8000. That is now very bright and shiny. You can see a good clean line down the middle of the fret. Z-file makes crowning a lot easier. See a little bit, I can still clean up here around the end, so I'll keep going with this. If you want to buff those frets out even more, and I do, I would recommend using micro mesh. So this is like the finest sandpaper that you've ever seen. It goes all the way up to, this pack goes to like 7,000 grit, but I've seen them that go even higher. It's way better if you can get them that have these little soft backed pads on them. I think StewMac has those too. But this is just some sandpaper I got off Amazon, but it will do the job quite nicely to continue buffing these past where I have it with the fret erasers. Oh yeah, look at that thing. If I wanted to get it even shinier, I would get my Dremel tool out and get some buffing compound and really buff the crap out of it. But that's already looking pretty dang good. I don't know the last time this thing had a good shining on all the other frets, but now they're looking a little dull in comparison to that guy. So maybe I'll just make an evening of it and give these all a good shine. Look at that. You can really tell the one that got some work done on it. The color of it is way different than the adjacent frets. Let's just check our work again now that we've done our final sanding and all that jazz. Rock solid. No wiggle. Amazing. So this should be dead on, balls accurate now. And now look at us all fixed up and ready for shreddy. And it's all thanks to the fret kisser, the fret rocker, the fret polishers, and all kinds of other awesome doodads you can get from our friends over at StewMac. I know that doing fret work is like a really nerve-wracking thing. I wouldn't even dream of touching it years ago. I'd be so nervous about messing up my guitars, I would just either deal with it or hand it off to somebody else. But now that I have these tools that are kind of engineered to be foolproof, I feel really confident in working on these guitars, even like new precious lovely things like this RG750 here. I can work on these things with no hesitation because I know it's going to turn out just fine. So hopefully this has inspired you to get those tools and give them a try, learn something about setting up your own guitars, getting and playing more better, and all that jazz. Thanks so much for watching the video. Be sure to check out the extended and ad-free cut that's only available over on the Patreon page, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. $1 a month gets you access to that, as well as hundreds of other goodies. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold, and like the video because the algorithm gods care for that. As you go through the week, keep a good thought, do something good for somebody out there. It's up to us to change the world one act of kindness at a time, and I know that we can do it. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to tune in next week. I'll catch you guys then. Get away from the computer machine, grab that guitar, do some picking. Less clicking, more picking.